Hi everyone, my name is Stan Switch. I'm a designer, marketer, and founder. Today, my guest is gonna be Mahta Moattari. She's a ex-Shopify designer working currently in a startup. And during this conversation, we're gonna explore topics like designing with AI and how can a process still be rooted in classic methods as using pen and paper. We're gonna discover many interesting topics regarding creativity, how using AI is an interesting part of Mahta's process, and we're gonna compare how does a process in startup and a big corporation like Shopify look like. As a bonus, we're gonna talk a little bit about the connection of music and design, how these two processes, creative processes, find similarities. And at the very end, we're gonna talk about some tips and tricks regarding portfolio and case studies. So stay till the very end if you wanna find out those. So, welcome, Mahta. Okay, so hi Magda, it's good to see you. I'm thank you for being here. You know, it's a long distance, Canada, Spain, so the that's an element. And thank you for joining us, everybody. Magda is a ex Shopify designer. Right now, she's here from cold Canada, and we're gonna talk about the process. We're gonna talk a little bit about her design process, about how design tools these days work. I also wanna talk with you, Magda, a little bit about AI. I know that you've been experimenting with Lovable and tools like that. So yeah, this is pretty much what today's episode is gonna be about. So, Magda, I've been researching a little bit your timeline to kind of see what's going on. And first of all, I noticed that you're not only doing design, but you're also doing music, right?
Yes.
How do you find time to do both of those?
Just I don't know, super superhuman. No, I'm joking. I don't know, I guess, like, my life is just design and music, and I don't do anything else.
Yes, I see. And have you ever noticed that these two elements combine in some areas?
I guess, like, in the creative side, they're both very creative, and then they're both need you to be collaborative, doing a lot of, like having a lot of conversations with other people and learning from everyone and being open to all the ideas and the way also, at least for me, the way I get inspiration in both is very similar, just looking into any existing work in the
Yeah.
world, seeing what you can learn from it, or what kind of catches your eyes or your ears, and then use it. So it's kind of very similar. It's just a different medium, but same process, same, yeah,
Yes,
I
I
guess.
totally understand what you mean. You know, I think it's a kind of a little bit like in this book, Steal Like an Artist, right? That
Yeah.
just yeah, take what's out there, take it, remix it, and just put it in your own version.
Yeah, pretty
So
much anything art related is like that.
yeah, yes, I can totally agree. So you've been working earlier in Shopify, but right now you're working in a startup, right?
Yes.
Okay, so could you tell us a little bit about what do you do right now? Is there maybe about the last feature that you've been developing or the last project that you had?
Well, I can't really talk about projects and features because
Okay,
it's a
okay.
startup. But it's pretty much the same type of work. It's just a different environment. I think for me, it's the first time working in startup setup. And the way I see it different from like Shopify or anywhere else I worked before that, that they were like huge with a lot of employees and stuff. It's basically how flat it is. Like you're just like working with the the main people like every day. There's no like review with this person and that person and this person to get to the top of the hierarchy and like get approval or anything like that. You're just like showing your work and the main people see it and you're ready for your next project, which is kind of new to me. And it's interesting how faster you can move in startup.
Yes, yes, I
Yes,
totally
yes, I do.
agree that when it comes to the speed, obviously startups are,
Yeah.
what they are known for. But
Yeah.
when it comes, but have you noticed that, for example, from this bigger structure, when you're working a bigger team up, is there are there any parts that you miss right now that you work in a smaller team?
Um, hmm. I haven't thought about that because I've only started working on startup recently, so I'm still like uh
Still excited.
yeah, I'm still learning the new things in startup, and I haven't thought about what what is it that it's not here because I'm still like a little kid in a new place.
Yes.
I'm still like excited about new things. Um, but I guess, like, you have you like, for example, in this startup, it's me and 2 other designer, which they're great designers, so it's a privilege to be with, like, really other good designers in a company, but, I guess, like, when you work in a bigger, org, there are, like, hundreds other designers that you can learn from and, like, get to know, and so there's just more opportunity.
So kind of get that feedback, and maybe you're not gonna move as fast in the project, but you can move faster because you like talk with other people and get feedback, right?
You could definitely cannot move faster. There's no way. Before 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 working in a startup, I always because a lot of other big organizations, they also say they actually try to set up their teams like startup, and they say, "We wanna work
Yeah.
like a startup. We wanna work fast." It's just not possible because it's just
Don't
not.
pretend.
Yeah, don't even don't even bother. It's kind of I don't know, it's kind of like, um, if you're carrying one small bag, how fast you can walk and run, and then if you're holding a lot of things, like, just
Yes. Yes, the process is just completely
this
different, as
process
you
is
say,
a
right?
lot yeah, a lot more complex, a
And
lot more things to
actually,
consider.
this is a thing I would like to probe you a little bit more, because you see, with the tools, with AI tools that we have right now, I feel like there is this huge push to ship faster.
Yes.
Everybody is just shipping like within, I mean, week is right now is a totally realistic timeline for product development. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And when you think about the corporate processes than you saw, and then as you experimented with AI tools, do you think
Mm.
there is a way in which they can be implemented in big organization, or do you think these tools are more for a startup-y, scale-up-y systems?
Let's first define what do you mean a week for development? Are you talking from the start of here's a problem until the
Exactly,
user can
yes.
see it, or are you talking about from when we have the design and then we're implementing it? Like,
Okay.
what is the exact thing that you're
Yeah,
thinking?
so honestly, I would like to hear your thoughts more. Maybe then I can bounce back on it. Let's talk about the first scenario first. From nothing, from idea to users. This episode is sponsored by us. We are paying for everything, for tools, for management, for pretty much everything that goes into production of these videos. Our core goal is to share the knowledge of design, of AI with everybody who wants to learn for free. This podcast is and will always be for free, but if you wish to support us and help us in this venture, I would really appreciate it. You can go to our website, which is nueva.design, and over there is a $9 package that helps us create content like this. This is totally optional. Thank you for being with us. And now back to the podcast.
Right. I don't think I mean, depends on how big the project like if it's like "Oh, we have a problem here, add a button." Yeah, we can do that in a day. But if it's an actual project that you need to, like, think about it and figure out how do you wanna solve it, even have some ideas, and then gradually, like, narrow it down to
Mm-hmm.
one idea and moving forward. I don't think you can do it in 1 week with AI, without AI, in startup, not in startup. It's just thinking isn't happening faster because it's still
So this is the limiter, in front of the screen. Yes.
Yeah, there's a part that you're relying on the human brain that has the same speed. That hasn't changed. So that part, I guess maybe that has changed just slightly, but not, like, drastically because, like, for example, before AI, I would start thinking about, "Okay, this is the problem that someone gave me to solve," and, like, what are and it really depends on the problem. Sometimes you already you've seen things similar to it, you have done similar projects to it in the past, so you already know, "Oh, yeah, I know we need to do this thing," and then you can start, like, putting things together and actually try it on the screens and see if makes sense or not. Because sometimes you think, "Oh, yeah, we could do it this way," and then you start putting it and you're like, "Ah,"
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
you
It
add
looked
something
better
else.
in my head, right?
Yeah. And then sometimes it's like you don't even really have an idea, so you start from or at least I love to start from flow charting, just like writing down, okay, this happens, then this happens, kind of like storyboarding if you think about
Yes.
videos. And I guess you can think about videos. And so you kind of do that. And then from there, you start thinking, okay, let's look at existing website or softwares, or let's go to Dribble or wherever you look at like the existing designs and see how other problems solved how other people solved similar problems. And then you kind of like see things and you're like, oh, that's interesting. This is interesting. I personally take
Yes.
screenshots and put it in my Figma, and then from there, you can now start having, like, some ideas and start doing, like, some mock-ups and then move forward from there, right? And in the past, I would do all of that on my own and then just, like, chatting with other team members, and now
Mm-hmm.
when I'm doing it, I also talk to, like, Claude or GPT or whatever, and just kind of like, I'm like, cause like, I don't know, I'm putting something and then I'm like, "Does that even make sense?" And instead of
Hmm.
waiting to set up a meeting with my colleague, whoever. I'm just like, hey, Claude, I'm like trying to do this thing. This is the problem, blah, blah, blah. Does it make sense? But also, it's a little bit tricky because Claude or GPT is always trying to be nice to you. So you don't know if it's actually making sense or not.
Okay, yeah. Yeah.
Especially GPT is way worse in that sense.
But I
Um,
think you can ask in the sense like, was this problem solved? And if so, how, right? Then
yeah,
you
you
can
have
ask
to
like factual.
Yeah, you have to, like, be very like, make sure that you're not asking it in a way that is just trying to confirm you to
Yeah.
yeah, and
Yes.
then
I don't know
yeah,
if you know this book. It's called The Mom Test. Do you know it? It's like a pink
uh,
book. It's I love it. It's very short. It's like I don't know, maybe 50 pages or something like that. And the whole book is about how to ask questions so not even your mom could lie to you. Because your mom
s
is nice to you, and if you go with a picture and ask if it's nice, mom is gonna be yeah, like yeah, it's beautiful.
yeah, yeah,
And this
yeah,
is
yeah.
like how to ask the question so not even mom can lie to you. So I think the process you're describing of talking with AI is
It's
exactly
similar.
this. You have to ask it very specifically.
Yeah, 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 you have to make sure it's not just trying to boost your ego
Yes.
and it's telling you the truth. Um, and yeah, so, like, that kind of maybe made it a little faster, in terms of, like, you don't have to wait until your colleague has time and then talk to them or, you can at least get, like, it might not fully replace that in different cases, but at least you have, like, one extra set of eyes, I guess, even though it doesn't really have eyes on the work that you're doing. And also for me personally, like I felt actually AI, especially the language models, was initially when it came out, was it 3 years ago when it was just kind of like
Yeah,
everybody
to,
started using it. At first, it was like almost like a toy. It didn't have anything interesting, and then gradually it got better. And at some point when it was better, I felt like it just helps me, uh, I don't know how to explain, reshape my life to some extent
you kind of
because
allow it into your process.
it was very I would say it was very critical for me as a person because I always had this struggle that I always felt like my brain works a lot faster than rest of my abilities. And I always felt like I have ideas and thoughts, but it's really hard for me to make it clear to others, like, in a very short amount of time, and that I felt like a bottleneck there, like, and it was, like, quite hard for me because I was like, "Ah, I don't know how to help others see what I see," and this kind of helped me because I just say, like, whatever to it, and then it just
Yes.
reflected back in a clear way, and I'm like, "Yeah, that's exactly what I'm trying to say in the worst way possible." And
Yes,
that
yes,
part is my favorite part of AI, that I can just, like, say, "Yeah, this is what I'm thinking, but I don't know how to say it so others can understand it," and then it just it spits it in this, like, way of talking about it, and I just copy paste it, and I'm like, "Great." Now I don't have to spend hours.
yes. I had this conversation with a friend yesterday that over here in Spain, it's very popular for people to send voice messages, And I personally hate it because somebody records at me like 2-minute voice message. I'm like, I don't have time. So we had this conversation how when you send somebody a voice message, usually you put the burden of the message on somebody, right? Because like they have to listen to the whole thing. But
Mm,
when you write it, like you are the one who kind of compresses it, and you make it nicer for the other person. But
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
from what I hear, workflow that you're describing right now is kind of you get to have the cake and eat it too. That you can just ramble to it, and then you
Yeah.
can just compress it and send it to a person.
Yeah, yeah. So that part definitely for me at least it's been faster, but I don't think it made the whole thing faster in terms of, oh, now we can get to the answer faster. It just made it easier for me to communicate my ideas better because in the past also we would have get to the answer with the same, like, more or less same amount of time. But my personal struggle was that I could see that we're moving in the wrong direction. I couldn't explain what is it. Like I was trying, but it wasn't helpful. Like, and then we would make the solution that the whole time
Yes.
I'm like, that's wrong. And then we would make it, and then we would implement it, and then people would start using it, and then we would get feedback, and I would be like, that's exactly what I was trying to say.
Yes.
So it's more like about like long term, for me at least, long term, like faster getting to that, place
Yes.
of here's the correct solution, not necessarily like in the cycle of making the product faster, at least not from ideation until like the mock-up.
Production. Yeah.
Well, no, production is different because like, so I create the designs, right? And then someone starts wipe coding or whatever. Someone can be me, it could be it could be a dev, whoever. And then from that, I don't know if that's faster or not because that's a whole other process that I actually don't have an idea of how long it took in the past. And now, like, I do some small vibe coding or whatever, but that's not enough to give me an idea of, is this faster? Is this slower? I guess it's like it's more like, oh, in the past I couldn't have changed the color of a button or whatever, and now I can. But I don't know if the whole thing is faster or not for the people that make the whole product, like move the
Mm-hmm.
design to the code. Like
Yes.
that's a question for those people. But for me, it's like it from ideation to the first mock-up is not necessarily faster, but there are parts that is faster, which is like, for example, um like I after I use AI for like design, at least the current ones, I realized if you start first of all, like some people are like, just design it like in like Lovable or
Yeah.
Figma Make or whatever. That I think it's weird because you kind of it's kind of like when you can't if I don't know how to explain this. When
Maybe
when
you should use AI.
see my problem. So if you're trying to do if you're trying to let me
Don't worry.
consult
Don't
this in
worry.
my
Don't
head
worry. Don't
first.
worry.
So if you're trying to solve a very complex problem, you need to kind of focus on the main part to have a really good answer for it. And the way to focus on the main part is to remove any distraction. That's why sometimes I even start from just pen and paper, like just
Mm. The
writing
old
things.
school way.
Yeah, cause like, when you're doing that, there's, like, no distraction. Then you're in, like then my next thing is sometimes FigJam. Again, it goes back to how complicated the project is, right? Uh, and my next thing is FigJam because FigJam, again, is just less distraction. You only have, like, boxes and stuff, and you just write down. You're just trying you're doing simple things, and you're putting your focus on the actual problem. As I'm getting closer to the answer, I go to Figma because now it's like it doesn't matter that I have to give some of my attention to some other things because now I kind of have something in my head that is like solid enough.
Mm-hmm.
And then I start doing that, and then now I have my first mock-up. So, I think that's the time that is good to start, like, giving it to Figma Make or Lovable or whatever, and it's easier too because I just basically especially with Figma Make, I just, like, give the board, and it just starts generating it, versus, like, I tried it in Lovable, and then you even give the image or whatever and it just doesn't do everything exactly like the way, and then you have to keep talking to it like, change this, do that, and that to me is not fun at all, and it's just time consuming, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm just sitting here talking to this thing about like the pixel is wrong, the icon
Yeah.
is wrong. That's quite annoying. And
Yes.
and, like, I have tried because, like, some people are like, "Oh, I just start my design in, like, Cursor or Lovable or wherever." And I have tried that, and I didn't find that useful, especially, like, if you're trying to design something super complex because you haven't even cleared your like thoughts yet, and like and then you're dealing with this whole other dimension of you're trying to do like it's too many things at once, and the result isn't that interesting. Like, it's kind of I think the result is actually quite similar to when there's no designer and the devs try to come up with an idea, and I think they actually do exactly that. It's not that they can't find the right answer, it's that they're collapsing different processes into, oh, I just think of something and I'm just gonna code it, and and that just doesn't give you enough time to figure out all the edge cases, all the problems, all the little things that when you're paying attention to other things, your brain just doesn't have the capacity to see it. So
Mm.
that's why for me personally, I like to start like dealing with like here is a design and I want to implement it, vibe code it or whatever once I have something more solid in Figma. But there's this thing that if you have few screens, you could then just continue the rest in the vibe coding. If the rest, like, if there are small changes or whatever, you don't have to design all of those things. Like, it really is the matter of how big or small the changes are. And it does make that faster. Or like, for example, in the current project that I'm working on, we want to do a user testing. And in the past, I would have manually created the prototype. I still create prototypes manually sometimes because it's actually faster sometimes to do it manually, again, depending on how complex the prototype is. But this prototype was quite complex. It needed animations, it needed like things to be realistic, which it's actually some of it is impossible to create with just Figma prototype. You have to like add other plugins and that just makes it a lot more complex and the learning curve also goes up. And like for example, small motions are things that I don't use every day in my design. So every time I want to use it, I have to like think about, "Oh, how did I do that last time?" And then just like, so it really slows down the process. But like it's quite fun to do it with like, for example, Figma Make because it's a lot more realistic and also you don't have to remember how you did that. You just say, "Oh, just fade this out when this is happening," or just shake this thing when and then and then I I spent some time because it was like I was designing this table that you change the status and the row needs to disappear. And then I was telling Figma Make to fade it out and then add a number to the card above here and shake it a little bit. And I was doing everything at the same time. And I was like, Jesus Christ. I was like, no, just do this first and then do this and then do this. And then there are also these annoying things that I don't know why, but for one of the rows, it would like there was also a popover that needed to close, and I keep telling it first close the popover, then fade this out, then add this, and it for one of the only for one of the rows, it would not close the popover first, and I was like, in row two, for God's sake, close the popover. And those are the moments that I'm like, oh God, what is happening? But yeah,
Yes, I totally understand what you mean. I've been fighting with AI, and sometimes for me it's
yeah.
incredible because it can do complex API integrations like seamlessly on the
Yeah, and that
first
is
prompt.
small thing.
Yeah, then I remember I had the same thing with table. I wanted to add like this like button that you like this position, and that took me like half a day to do it. So I know exactly what you're talking about. But
Yeah, so
I love the fact that you said that sometimes prototyping is faster still in Figma. For which cases do you think so?
if it's like as simple as I click in this button and this page opens up, if I want to wipe code that and there's a small problem with the spacing or icon or whatever, and I have to tell whatever AI I'm using, change this by this much, do this. And then the whole point of it is just to show that you click here and this opens up and I already have the design of both pages. It's really slower to use vibe coding if no one is going to use my code. It's different if like it's like no, you vibe code it and we're going to use your code. But if it's just to user test or just to show it to someone, it's way faster just like click and connect it to the other page and move on with your life rather than okay, here we go. We have to like now talk about the second row for 5 hours.
Yes, I keep repeating the story, and I wanted to change element in UI. It was called campaigns, and I wanted to rename it to agents. And I told Claude, rename it to agents. And he's like, sure, renaming every position in database. And it took him like 3 hours to go through the whole thing. I was like, Jesus Christ, all functions, everything was changed.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, sometimes it can go for real adventures.
Yeah. So I think it really depends what you're doing, why you need to wipe code or not, and is it like wipe code because that's it, you are the person who's coding it, or are you wipe coding because you want to show it to another dev that this is how it works, and then they do it, so I don't think there's like a right way or wrong way. It's just like figure out, if you're saying AI is here to help optimize, then really optimize. Don't just don't just use it just because, unless you just really want to try and learn, that's different. Like, but I have seen like sometimes just people are just doing something because they wanna be trendy, or
Yes, I
yeah, and
see.
it's like, well, that kinda took you more time to do it this way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so yeah, from what I hear when you're explaining this process, it kind of looks like the you're as you're going, you're increasing the resolution, of what you're doing. Like you're going into more and more details, and as you're increasing the resolution, you're also introducing more and more tools. As I said at the very beginning, there's pen and paper, least amount of tools possible, just the consciousness stream. And
Yeah.
then slowly you expand till you get to this moment where you have to make a prototype. And I've seen you've been experimenting with Cursor, Lovable, and Figma Make. So I
Yeah.
would be curious to hear your comparison on those three.
Well, I think it really matters what you're trying to do, because with Cursor, you can actually be connected to the actual code base, which I wasn't. I was doing it in the sandbox, but you're still connected to, like, the actual, at least a copy of production. And so that has its own, like, pros, because and maybe cons sometimes, because you can also just ruin the whole thing for everyone if you make a mistake. But 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 if you're, like, trying to, and it's really useful if you're trying to, like, do a little thing in an existing, uh, whole production code that exists, to see how it works, then you don't have to, like, vibe code the whole thing. It's already there, and you add your own thing there, and you try it. Um, and, and also, like, other people can do more on on what you created, because it's a shared uh code base, right? Whether it's a sandbox or it's actual production. um and with Lovable, I only used it just to see how it works. So I wasn't really using it for actual design, actual product or anything. So I'm not sure, like, I have seen people just using it to create their own products and stuff. So I'm not sure exactly what are the pros and cons of that, but it was very similar, in some ways very similar to Cursor, in some ways very similar to Figma Make. And then I think the good thing about Figma Make is, I don't think it's good if you're trying to actually do things in the code, or because I don't even know how you're gonna connect. I guess you have to copy paste it. I don't even know how how you're gonna do that part, because you're very isolated and you're in Figma and you're just doing your own thing.
You're in
Um
the safe playground, right?
yeah, you're not even in a sandbox, you're in your own world. Uh, but it's useful if you're not trying to make changes in the actual code, but you're just trying to create something, show people how it works, use it for user testing, and like, and you wanna make sure you're not, like, ruining anything,
Hmm.
and everything is intact. So it's good for that. Like, I don't know if in future there will be a way to, like, kind of, like, connect all of these things sort of together. So, like, because, like, I don't know, as a designer, I find Cursor a little bit too serious for my taste, and a little bit too much, like, it's a developer environment, right? It's
Yes.
built for a user, very specific user. And like I'm a designer, I understand if you're designing something for a user is not for this other user. And I think that's where I'm missing when I'm in Cursor. I'm like, well, clearly this is not for a designer. And with Figma Make, it's very much for a designer. And I don't know if in future these could be kind of connected somehow. So I can use it from my point of view and from like the UI and interaction that is more designed for me as a designer, and then a dev can use it from their point of view. That would be really nice because sometimes I see in some places they're like, not that they explicitly say that, but they implicitly say, "Oh, you're a designer. We don't care. Just use this. You have to be a developer." And I'm like, "Wait, I thought AI would make our lives better, not worse. Like why do I have to be erased as a person with as a user and as a person with like wanting something different? Like why can't I not have that, you know, um tool that is designed for me as a designer that would work for me? Like, why am I not a user anymore and I have to just adopt to like what is this?" Like that
Yeah.
as a designer, that does not make sense to me because I'm like, well, I spend every day to make things good for users. And I would love it if someone does that for me too.
I think this is what they are trying to do with 3 days ago. This connector with Cloud Code and Figma launched.
Mm,
So you can
mm,
literally right now take like let's say vibe code something in Cloud and then paste it into Figma, edit it in Figma, and go back. And
mm.
so I didn't try it yet. I didn't test it yet because it's like super fresh. But
Neat.
apparently, this is where these two worlds merge. Because I agree with you that Cursor, when you launch it, it's intimidating. You have left
Yeah.
panel,
Yeah.
top panel, right panel. There's also bottom panel, and then you have so many tabs going over there, and there's just so many points that tell you that you have no idea what you're doing over there, like
Yes.
I remember first time I opened Cursor and I had some developer experience. I opened it up and I was like, oh, I'm kind of afraid to use it. And
Mm,
the I've been working with Cloud for the last couple of days, weeks, and
mm,
what I like about it is that everything is hidden. There's just a chat box. It's very inviting. There is this
mm,
friendly monster on top of there.
mm,
On top of chat,
mm.
kind of saying
Yeah,
hello to you,
yeah.
and Cloud is kind of merging right now into like transforming into this ecosystem because everything
Mm.
starts to connect to it,
Connect, so yeah, yeah.
like for example, in a browser, I have it connected to my browser right now, and what I really love is that you can give him task and to say like do this, and then he will build it, but then he will open up the browser for himself and check it and test it for himself, which
Mm.
for me is insane, like with the first moment I saw it. And I gotta say I'm guilty because I'm kind of stalker. Sometimes I give him a task to click it and then I'm sitting and watching, like
That's weird.
yeah, that's a little bit weird, but that's actually helpful because as he clicks, I'm finding out how different elements behave, and I'm just writing all that down. But yeah, it's kind of weird.
Mm. I have to use Claude. I use it for other things. I haven't tried it for wipe coding. I need to do that and see how that works. Maybe that would be my new best friend.
Yes, yes. Because you see I would love to hear your opinion about. Because when you're building with AI, as you said, this is like the final element of the whole journey, right? And then you're making something complex, you kind of create it, and in a low resolution, you're increasing it up to the prototype level.
Mm,
But what if you're working on a, let's say, bigger enterprise corporate or this kind of a level where there is already a design system implemented?
mhm.
Does it even make sense when you have blocks that are already built and you kind of have your guidelines to go through the whole process and not just use the already built design system and just vibe code
Well,
it?
you are always using as a designer with if there's a design system, you're already always using the already existing blocks of the design system. You're never just doing whatever
Yeah, of
anyways.
course.
So it doesn't I don't think it does make a huge difference. And maybe for some people, I think it's also like partially related to how your brain works. Maybe for some people it's easier to just do it in Claude right away. I haven't experienced that. I always felt like when I'm already trying to wipe code it, I just let me see um how can I find an example to make that more easier to understand what I experience when that happens. Um I think it's like I'm a person who learns and experience things really by doing them.
Yes.
And yeah, if I just like I remember what in during university, school, any of those educational institutions, I always struggled with like when people were just like explaining things in theory, and then as soon as they would start talking about an example, I'd be like, oh, okay. And then it would click more when I would actually try to do one. So for me, that act of actually doing it, it really helps me to connect with what I'm trying to do. And then at some point when that clicks and then I can just like start uh dealing with like other tools and it just like it's more like here it is, take it away type of thing. Um that works better for me. I don't know, maybe for some people, like, a different way would work better. Like, I don't think there's just one way for everyone. I don't think there's a right
Yeah,
or wrong
of
way.
course.
But
So in your process, the way you like to work, where is this? Because I think as with designers, when we develop a feature, an idea, anything, there is always um, this moment of exploration, right? And then kind of merging down. I mean, we could tell Double Diamond, but I think people hate
mm,
this right now. So like, let's not use this analogy.
yeah.
But there is this moment of exploration and then converging back. So
Mhm.
in your process, where does this core exploration happen?
That happens definitely in Figma.
In Figma.
I th I think I generally normally have an idea that I see it in my head as one of the way that you can design something. Like, I normally when I start from the pen and paper and then the fig jam, by the time that I'm finishing the fig jam, I can see the whole design in my head with like and it's like a movie. You can click, it goes to the next page with motion, everything. It's just there. And then from there, like marking it up is super easy, especially everywhere I worked, there's a design system, so I'm just, like, grabbing things, bang, 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 it's there. And I don't know, maybe if you're a very new designer, maybe AI is faster. For me, like, it's almost the same amount of time to just manually do it or vibe coding it at that point, but I like to do it manually. It just it that fe it feel I know I'm not really touching it, but it does feel like I'm, like, using a clay, making something.
Because it gives you more control because you don't have to fight
Yeah.
tools, right? But you can
Yeah, yeah,
actually,
it's just me
through
and
the mouse, you touch this
hands.
design, right?
Yeah,
Yes,
and then
yes,
and
yes.
then I put it together, and then once I have this first manifestation of the idea that I was also seeing in my head, as I'm putting that together, I start having this other versions in my head. I'm like, "Oh, it could be also could be a pop-up, it could be this, it could be that," like, for the same thing, for, like, different parts of and then I keep, like, I keep making those ones. And I normally have like, if you look at my Figma file, I normally have like five, six, well, maybe not five, depending on the project, at least three different ways of doing the same thing. And then I kind of look at them. I'm like a like a painter. I just sit back and look at them. I'm like, which one I
So
like
good.
better. And, and I kind of weigh out, think about the pros and cons of each one, and sometimes there's a very clear winner. I'm like, "Oh, this one is way better because of this," and then sometimes it's like, "Ah, this is better in this way, and then that's better in that way," and you can't it's more like that's when I love to show it to other people because then maybe they have a stronger opinion about one or the other, and then we can kind of go with whatever that most people think is better. And then from there, we kind of we're at that point that we narrowed it down to like the final, and then we can kind of finish the story because it's also, at least for me, it's like the main screens that it, you're trying to solve the problem, and then once you have the main way that you want to solve the problem, then it's the whole story of like, okay, it starts from here and all this screens in between, and then this is where it ends, and kind of looking and seeing if it still makes sense. And when you're putting that together with all the screens, again, you can do it with vibe coding, I guess, but interestingly enough, in this project that I was working on, when I prototyped it and I did some of it in the prototype in Figma Make, and I was showing it to people, they actually didn't see the different screens, and they're like, "Well, you need to show all of the screens from the beginning to the end." And I was thinking, "Well, it's all there in the prototype." But it's not screen by screen, right? It is all there. You're just like seeing it in motion, so it doesn't, because they're not the designers, they didn't think about, like, I can see each screen because I was seeing it in my head, and then I created the prototype, right? But they're just looking at a finished product, and they're like, "Well, can you put all the screens because we want to see how it moves from once, what are the stages, you know?" And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, I can do that." And I was thinking, I already know, I just need to put it together, even if you just take a screenshot of your prototype, but at the end of the day, to explain, like, it also matters, what are you trying to, sometimes to explain it to people you need to show static screens, and then sometimes to just give it to someone to test it, like, "Hey, try this and tell me how you feel." You need that dynamic prototype, and then so it's just, it's all about communication in, like, preparing things and what works best in what scenario. There's not a final, this is the best way and it would work in every situation.
Yes, but the way you said it, it kind of reminded me of how movies are done, right? You have the
Mm,
storyboard, and at the very beginning, before you actually make a movie, you just say, okay, this is, let's say, chapter one, right? And this is what
yeah.
happens. And maybe what it can help with is that in this form, you can more vividly mark when chapter begins and ends, right? And you can just show, let's say, the chapters, stages of the journey, and for some purposes, as you say, that might be actually better, right?
A better way, yeah, exactly. So I feel like as we were talking about this, I'm thinking basically a lot of times what AI can help us with is maybe having more or better ways to communicate things to each other as we're building things, and maybe sometimes getting to a particular way of communicating something happens faster, but we're still all human in this cycle of building, and every single human brain still works exactly as before. so so there's just so much that you can make it faster or slower, that, like, I don't think we can expect AI to make things 10 times faster, or I don't know what is the expectation really, but
No, I don't think so. But the thing is, I know that some companies right now, I mean, first of all, I know that there's this thing appearing called design engineer, right? So that they're
Mm,
kind of designers that already work, like, let's say, vibe code, the
mm,
front part. So it's not just a Figma, but it's something usable, I think, in the smaller teams, especially. And also, I talked last time with Christina from Descript, and she told me that in their Jira tickets, when there's like a UI feature, they don't even give it to developer, but just to designers strictly. So the
if
designers
it's a
can just
small
go.
or
Yeah,
if
if
it's
it's
a
a
small one
small UI element, so
too.
they don't
Yeah.
have to have the feedback loop with developers.
Yeah,
Designers
yeah,
can
yeah.
just go vibe code it, and
Yeah.
it is done. So I would be curious to hear your thoughts. That you've worked in a big team, you work in a small team, and I would love to hear your thoughts regarding. This is a speculation, of course, but
Mm.
regarding the future of this profession, how do you think the product designer will move forward? Like, do you think it's still gonna be, let's say, how it was, but just more optimized? Or maybe, in the small teams, it would shift toward this engineers, but maybe in bigger teams,
I
it wouldn't?
I actually don't have any idea. This is such a big question.
It is, it is.
But I think it doesn't like, I think we might be looking at the wrong end of things. I think we need to look at why even some people are designers and some are developers. Couldn't they already be developers? Like, couldn't designers already don't didn't we have designers that coded even before AI?
Yeah, I
And
see what
maybe
you
we
mean.
will have more, but I just think there's like some people become designers and some people become developers and some people become product owners and all the other things out there, not just because, oh, there's a tool and we can do it or not, but because what they really like to do or how they see the world or where the strong part of their brain is leading them to go. And I don't think you can change it. Maybe you can force people to, because they need to have roof over their head to just force themselves to do something that is not really their calling, or it's not really align with their internal processes. To every designer to become a developer now. I don't know if that's the goal or not. Maybe we can force people to be that, but I don't believe that every person actually can be that. And yes, there will be more designers that would be, I guess, design engineers now, because it's a lot easier than before. Before you had to literally learn a whole other thing. Um, but I don't know if every designer actually wants to, because yeah, the little things you can definitely do without knowing anything about the whole coding and review and any parts of it. But if you really want to call yourself, I wouldn't call that person a design engineer, but if you really want to call yourself a design engineer, you actually need to be able to also solve a problem. You can't get stuck in and go to an engineer. you you have to actually be able to solve it. So you have to, at the end of the day, you have to learn the other side. Maybe not as intense as before, but you still have to learn it. Does everybody wants to do that? Because that's entirely a different discipline. It's like as a musician, I like to write songs. I like to co-produce it. Do I want to mix it? I don't really think so.
I
And
see what
like
you mean.
now AI maybe is making it easier or whatever. Do I want to mix it? Still no. Like, hasn't changed. just don't like that part of it that much.
Yes, I
So
see
it's
what you
really,
mean. Yeah, but
yeah,
if you could have, but that's a really interesting example because there is actually a lot of let's say musicians who produce music, but there
mix.
are musicians who are also mixing, right? So I
Yeah,
think this is a very good analogy. And
yeah.
but if you could have, let's say, a mixer, who is like this automatic mixer that is good enough,
I
but you
don't
don't have
like
to go
good
to
enough.
I like
I
that.
don't like good enough.
Yeah.
Maybe that would work. Like I definitely think that helps people who are starting a project on their own and and like startups at early stage when they just don't have money to hire like someone, right? And this is great. Like it's kind of like when I did my first music video last year, and I never done a music video before that, and I didn't have budget to hire anyone, and I mean, I did hire a videographer and I had friends helping me, but it was a very like, it was the most tight budget music video you can think of. And for me, I used, Midjourney to storyboard, and I used ChatGPT to, like, figure out different camera angles and stuff. I also watched a lot of YouTube videos just learning about lighting, camera angles, framing, storyboard, like, all the processes, and then I used all these things, and it was helpful for me because I didn't have the money, I didn't have anyone, and I just wanted to do it. If I had money, I would have definitely hired someone to do it because there was so much limitation with like ChatGPT and whatnot, and my skill set, even though I watched the YouTube videos and stuff. And at the end of the day, I didn't like some of it. I had to do it because there was no other option, but I didn't really enjoy doing it. I would have happily gave it to someone else to do it. So there's a little bit of, and I think AI is definitely really good when you're in that stage of I need to do this. I don't have a lot of like
Yes.
money and things, and this is better than nothing. I have something to, use and move forward. But I think as as a musician, I get to a point, I don't know about companies because they run their business different, but I get to a point that I'm like, I would really love for someone with more skills to come and take this, and I don't wanna be the sole owner of every step of this, you know,
Yes,
with
I
AI.
think this is exactly the same way with companies.
So I think because of that, there's I think it's more like, "Oh, we have this much budget and we need to do this, and so therefore we need to not replace, but use AI in certain points of the process until we have enough money to actually hire someone that can do it."
Exactly.
They might use AI in their process, none of my business, whatever. Like, but I hire them for their skill and for the things that I can't do with or without AI. So
Yes, yes, I totally agree. So, look, Magda, to be honest, the hour has passed, so we're gonna finish right now. To be honest, this
yes.
conversation was very easy, so thank you for helping me out. It's been a really, really fun conversation to have. I loved all the topics that we talked about, and yeah, it was really a pleasure to have you on a podcast.
Thank you so much. It was fun for me too.
Okay.